Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome back from the break. We've had such a beautiful day yesterday and this morning, hearing about the various aspects of the Ayurvedic lifestyle. It really is a lifestyle science, a lifestyle practice. And it's reminding me of my own upbringing, which I already spoke about a little bit yesterday within the 3HO Sikh Dharma community with Yogi Bhajan, the Healthy, Happy, Holy organization. And the idea of this organization was really for us to live a healthy, happy, holy lifestyle. And so we would wake up early in the morning before dawn and take cold showers, massage our bodies with almond oil, and do yoga, meditate, recite Guru Nanak's Japji, and really set ourselves for the day. And all of the practices that we've heard about at this conference really have touched on these aspects of mantra, meditation, yoga, being in tune with our life cycles, being in tune with ourselves. I teach Sikhism and Jainism and yoga studies here at LMU. And the students are encouraged to do 40-day practices, practicing ahimsa, practicing veganism or vegetarianism, practicing a parigraha, this disconnection from our cell phones, which Lori spoke about, seeing if they can be disconnected from social media if it's seeming like it's not serving them, and how we can work on our meditative practices. So I'm so happy now to introduce Acharya Shunya Ji. She is a truth teller and an awakener of consciousness and health. Her talk today is going to be connecting us with these cycles within ourselves and within the environment. She's a rarity today. She was born into an ancient Vedic lineage in northern India where she spent 14 years mastering classical texts. Acharya is a customary title earned from traditional schooling in India, which means a master teacher. In 2015, she was featured in Spirituality and Health magazine as one of the top 100 trailblazers in yoga and Ayurveda today. She is president of the California Association of Ayurvedic Medicine and chair and advisor to many organizations, including the Government of India and Ayurveda International Delegates Assembly, a 60-country Ayurvedic consortium. Today, she teaches at Vedika Global, her spiritual community and wisdom school in Northern California, and her graduates have offered Ayurvedic and yoga courses under her supervision at UNICEF and at Stanford University's Health Improvement Program. And they're certified to provide Ayurvedic staff trainings at prisons and police departments all across California. So I welcome you today, and she will share with us this broad implication that Ayurveda has for our internal and external environments. Thank you.
Namaskar. I offer my pranams to the Doshi family, which has enabled this Brahma Yajna, this great feast of spiritual education. I also congratulate the conference chair, Dr. Chapel and Niranjan and Sarah, and this entire wonderful team of visible and invisible people who must have come together to make a statement of power and deeper power. And I'm here to talk to you about Ayurveda, environmental ethics, Dharma, human consciousness, because these are topics that are less talked about. And when Dr. Chapel gave me this invitation and knowing the body of work that he represents, I felt that this was a good place for me to bring this up. I would like to begin with offering a prayer to the greater tradition and parampara, because yoga, Ayurveda, Vedanta, all of these sciences have come down to us from, they're called aparushiye. They are not from humans. They are from divine origin. And they have come through great scholars and teachers to us. So please join me. Narayana Samarambham Vyasa Shankara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. These people that I was revering, and the people that are worthy of revering everywhere at all times in different parts of the world, they have one thing in common. What is in common is their relationship with power. They know that they are powerful beings, and they know that this is a powerful universe. The word magic is probably not an appropriate word in a serious conference. But I want to tell you that these rishis, seers, were aware that such is the power that mere thoughts and our behavior can morph and shape-shift our physical universe. Modern science is continuing to find evidence of that. But these powerful beings gave birth to their medicine. Medicine not just for people, Ayurveda. Medicine for also elephants, Hastived. For horses, Ashwaved. For trees, Vrikshaved. And they also wanted to be concerned about the medicine for this entire planet. They do not consider our planet to be merely matter. It is a sentient being to these powerful seers in an India which was once much bigger, not just the current India. And therefore, since human behavior has an impact upon everything, especially our planet, and because we are powerful, a deliberation upon this power. Where does it live? How do we play it out? And how does it ultimately come back and benefit us or ruin us? Is a consideration that Ayurveda wanted us to have. Today, we are mostly aware of an Ayurveda that helps us, the human being, physically, psychologically, spiritually, sensorially. Ayurveda for a long time, thousands of years before humanity could have conceived of a WHO, Ayurveda had mentioned what the human subject is composed of. Sharirindriya sat atma samayogo dhari jivitam nitya gaschanubandhascha paryaya rayuruchyate. That the human being is not just the physical sharira, it is not just the mental manas or sattva, but it is also Atman, the self of pure consciousness. And there is a fourth dimension called the sensorial dimension, Indriya, through which we interact and interface with the universe. We use our sense organs to act upon the universe. And then we use the sense organs to receive the universe. We are creating karma, individually and collectively. And so this human being had to be looked at in a completion, in a fullness. And this interesting way of looking at the human being, because this four-dimensional human being is additionally a self-conscious animal. This is an animal that is very much benefiting from nature, but can also choose how it wants to interact with nature. Does it want to be only a consumer or a benefactor of nature? And therefore, in the ancient times, there was a consideration on what is known as dharma. Dharma comes, dharanyat dharma. What sustains you is dharma. Dharma cannot be translated as merely ethics. It cannot be translated as duty. I have understood now that dharma is the response that each one of us has when we are awake to our responsibility, when we are awake to our bold responsibility. The responsibility not just to our small self, our physical health, our de-stressed life, but the responsibility that we are the custodians of what we perceive and what is benefiting us, because ultimately Ayurveda benefits from nature completely. Nature is the factory of Ayurveda, where we get our herbs, our foods, and the substances to build poisons or oj immunity within us. So it's all sourced from nature. But the question is, if that is where you are creating and recreating yourself every 24-hour cycle, what is your relationship to nature? So dharma, to me, dear friends, is an awakened response, a response that is possible only to one who has a certain consciousness. But apparently, conferences were being held thousands of years ago. I'm going to be quoting you from this text called Charaka Samhita from 2nd century BCE, which is a reduction of texts prior to that, which are a summary of teachings even prior to that. So we are looking at a 5,000 to 8,000-year-old tradition that is alive today. And I'll be quoting from a text called Charaka Samhita, like Patanjali Yoga Sutras to yoga, as is Charaka Samhita, to the Ayurvedists across the world. And it is interesting and sobering that even in 2nd BCE, there was concerns for the environment. And interestingly, we are all decrying our current new decisions around the environment by a new government. But it's interesting that Charaka Samhita connected environmental problems to our human behavior and consciousness and thinking. So I will quote verbatim from Charaka Samhita, Vimanasthanam, the section. The root cause of the derangement of seasons is loss of dharma or ethical behavior. If dharma is lost over time, the seasons will get disrupted. Rivers will become violent and change course. Meteorites will appear frequently. Earthquakes will shake the terrain. And in this natural and human-created mayhem, diseases will thrive and multiply and cause mass-scale destruction of all living beings. We had received our official notice several thousand years ago. Further, and because of loss of dharma, gradually it does not rain in time. Californians? Or at all, or there is abnormal rainfall, winds do not blow properly, the land is affected, water reservoirs get dried up, and the herbs, giving up their natural properties, acquire morbidity. Then epidemics break out due to polluted contacts and edibles. How much can I eat nutrition? Where shall I grow my organic food? How and from where should I source my herbs? If the very planet, if the very origin of all of this abundance, which we call in the Veda sampada, swastha and swasti sampada. Swastha is health, swasti is well-being. This sampada, this treasure, is wholly and solely dependent upon earth and the natural environment. But if that too is poisoned, where shall I find that one nectar that shall set me free? We are all in that illusion that if it's not allopathy, then it is homeopathy. If it's not homeopathy, then it's naturopathy. And if nothing else, let's go to those strange people who talk Sanskrit a lot. Let's go to Ayurveda. They'll figure it out. They'll help us. But unfortunately, our Tinosporia cordifolia, Guduchi, is not Guduchi. Our Ashwagandha is not Ashwagandha. They are all damaged. They are all breathing that same air. They are all drinking the same water. They are also experiencing the same tragedy that loss of Dharma has created for us. But I am not person here standing here to tell you the doomsday message, because Veda clarified one thing to me. My Baba, my teacher, a Vedic scholar, I go back many generations, taught me one thing. If you have a problem, Shunya, you have a solution, because you are powerful. So we are here to talk about solutions. We are here to become part of that solution. And we are here to celebrate solutions that have been amidst us but ignored. Why ignored? Because the current model of Ayurveda, as Dr. Shiva mentioned prior to you, due to colonialism, due to a loss of inner knowingness that India had, our current education system only forwards a more prescriptive model of Ayurveda, while 93% of Ayurveda herbs are endangered. Our government talks about wanting to promote Ayurveda exports while our herbs are endangered. So therefore, to be part of that solution, whatever my graduates are now teaching at Stanford or prisons or in the California probation departments is an Ayurveda where you connect with growing the herb for a whole year before you consume it. We are giving away how to grow herbs and telling people about Dharma, consciousness, and environment, because lest we get so focused on our personal environment that another level of delusion creeps in, and then we think, but after all, we are Ayurvedic people. So self-serving exploitative actions can only go so far. The Vedas said clearly, ekam sat vipraha bahuda vadanti, there is only one truth. There is only one truth, and we are part of it. We are not separate from it. You take a molecule out of this one truth, the whole truth has to move with it. So when that is the case, then when should we wake up? Sarvasya lochanam jnanam. There is sarvasya lochanam. The best eye is the eye of wisdom. That is why in Ayurveda, Veda means wisdom, not technology. And wisdom is always having less to do with what we see outside. Wisdom can only be really curated by the yogis of the world, by the mystics of the world, by the sages and the seers of the world who dared to go against what met their, perception. They were not just looking for evidence, pratyaksha pramana, and inference, anumana pramana. They dared to go by shabda pramana. And then people wanted to say, how dare you people? You just follow scriptures. You Vedic people, you just revere the holy books. No, it is not shabda pramana of the that was written in the holy book, because for a long time prior to publishing, there were not even any holy books. The holy book is in here. The shabda is the sound that you hear, and then you know, and that is called wisdom. Actually, hridaya, we keep confusing, the Ayurveda fraternity doesn't know if it's the heart or the brain. But actually the mind thinks, the heart feels. So in my Vedic teaching, I understood that the heart is formed when the two come together. When we start feeling our understanding and start understanding our feeling, then hridaya, or heart, is born. And wisdom is the lotus in that heart. We have to bring together our thinking and our feeling and not create separate compartments. Then we have the kind of wisdom that Ayurveda, Yoga, Vedanta are talking about. And I agree with many of the leaders here that we can be proud in what this is. But we have to take a stand and explain ourselves so that we don't get marginalized into holding on to just some knowledge, because this knowledge is universal. It deserves to be out there. So what is this knowledge then? This knowledge, in short, yatha pindanda tatha brahmanda. As is inside, as is outside, as is outside, so is inside. So then if this is the case, then the buck stops with me. The buck stops with me. We can only blame and shift the blame only so far and so much. I do love the photos my assistant chose. She's very aligned with her teachers or her, persons. Beautiful photos. So may I introduce the word Brahman? Mentioned before by great scholars who are here, and I'm privileged to be in their sanidhya, as we say, in their company. But Brahman is the name that the Vedic people, the Vedas are the parents of Ayurveda and the yoga tradition, Sankhya, yoga traditions. They gave this universal reality a name called Brahman. It's a language. We can go for Tao, we can go for source. Brahman in Sanskrit, we also call it Sakshi Chaitanyam, Chetana. But Brahman is not the name of a person or a god or a king or a male. Brahman comes from the root word bri, which means that which is big, which is getting bigger. That is incomparably boundless, inexhaustible bigness. It is infinite. In fact, my name Shunya also means that. But every random Indian outside this room will think, oh, why did your grandfather name you Zero? Well, because he was working on my ego, so that's okay. I accepted my lessons, but beyond the ego lives the self. Beyond the ego lives Brahman. So I want to write one day a book called From Zero to Infinity. And the fact of the matter is that there is an underlying reality which includes beings, supra beings, matter. It includes everything. And yet it remains unchanged. And this Brahman is also your own self, known as Atman. And a quick definition of Atma is Apanoti iti sarvam Atma. That which is boundless is your nature. That's what you're being told. You're being told that Brahman lives in you as Atma, and Atma means what is boundless. So in case you are sitting here, feeling restricted, thanks to Larry, we experience some boundlessness. This is what it happens. It's movement, it's breathing, it's joy. It's a state of why do we want yoga? Why do we want abundance? Why do we want love? Why do we want romance? Why do we want a beautiful environment? Because our boundlessness feels affronted if it's any less. I will refuse to be contained in a box because my deepest forgotten memory, but a deepest impression of me is I'm boundless. Would you agree? I am sure you stood up and said, wait a minute, please don't zip me into any boxes because I'm going to choose what the boundless me will decide. So in this human world, there can be slaves only so long. Sooner or later, a slave will say, Apanoti iti sarvam Atma, I am boundless, I am Brahman, I am big. And that is why this universe has given people who have eroded the universe and its values, and there are people who have shown the way, like Nelson Mandela or Gandhi and so many others, Mahavira and Buddha and all of them, who stood up in their bigness and their boundlessness. And this boundlessness, I'm coming to Dharma, stays with us. So we are boundless. So I'm telling you about your boundless nature in case you come back and tell me, what can I do, Shunya? I recycle, what can I do? So, just in case you're coming up with an excuse, I'm a teacher. So I zap already, I prevent any excuses in my students. Next there's another concept called Satyam. Satyam means truth. And another concept called mithya, which means an appearance. But this is not ordinary truth. This is not your truth or my truth. It is not Jaina truth, Buddha truth, Sikh truth, Christian truth, black or white or yellow truth. Satyam tapate ravihi. Satyam dharyate prithvi. Satyam vayavo vanti. Sarve satyam pratishtatam. It is that truth, which is because of which the sun is shining. It is that truth because of which Earth and its planets are on their orbit. It is that truth because of which wind inside you, prana, is flowing. And we are all established in that truth. And so there is one truth, and you're being told that's you. And then there is an appearance, whatever is transient, matter is changing, much like Purusha and Prakriti in the Yoga Sutras or Sankhya philosophy. And in Vedanta, we have Brahman and Maya. Maya is a potency of Brahman because of which we get confused in comprehension. So there is in this world, to summarize and come back from the Sanskrit to what we all know with our own eyes, there is you, the deeper part of you, that is Satyam, it's that truth. It's the ultimate truth. And then there is this earth, the environment, which is mithya. It will change, it is changing. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this to remind you that each one of us, and remind me that each one of us has a higher order of reality to what's going on. And if we have that very potent reality right within us, we can disrupt the outer reality or construct it. I am not going to show you the neurological path because that was not my path. But I can show you the path of Vedanta and the Vedas. But it looks from Dr. J and other people teaching, we're all coming to the same place. That ultimately, we're very powerful people. We are shaping our universe at every moment. At every moment, we are shaping it by our perceptions. So therefore, in this interconnected web of consciousness, how separate can we remain? But we chose to remain. We even chose to remain like that in 2nd century BCE. And this is because that very large consciousness cannot be understood by us, and it becomes circumscribed in the form of 3 types of consciousness, which I will not go into details. It's the same consciousness, but circumscribed, and Dr. Chappell is smiling, so I know I'm giving a simple example for you. It helps to have you nod. But basically, Rajas and Tamas, you can all nod. Absolutely. But Rajas and Tamas, we've all gone into it before, but when Rajas is there, a person with Rajas consciousness will say, he didn't recycle. The first world didn't do it. The third worlds have too much poop in their countries. This is happening, that's causing it. The Rajas will blame shift. The Tamas consciousness will say, oh no, what can I do? This is terrible. And I can't do anything, I'm helpless. But it is the people with sattva, and you can read those terms. We are all sattvic dominant people here. We are the people who are harmonizers. We are the people who are willing to stand up and take responsibility. We are the people who are willing to say, yes, I will embody Dharma so that my consciousness is such that it does not create a morphing that I don't want in the environment. Because ultimately a question that a sattvic person can ask is, wow, is my plastic polluting the environment, or are my thoughts polluting the environment? Because they both can pollute the environment. So therefore, Ayurveda has talked about the 4 quadrants, air, water, soil, and time, and we have chapters and chapters on how to purify them, etc., etc. That's not the point of the class. But I'm just saying we have a pragmatic solution, and then we have a spiritual solution that I want to move towards. So then Charaka Samhita concludes, and thus this adharma, or unrighteousness by force, makes the dharma disappear. This is very sobering. Probably this is where we are for the moment. Thank you. But when you are sitting quietly in meditation, when you are breathing pranayama, when you are just being quiet amidst nature, so many of you have talked about nature. Felicia Ji talked about how nature is the answer. So it's like when you are in that nature, in that moment, the self-deception falls away. The Rajas cannot remain agitated consciousness. The Tamas cannot remain clouded consciousness because they work. Tamas works by concealing, Rajas works by agitating in that concealment. Sattva shines. And in that sattva, like this person standing in nature all by yourself, and it's like the buck stops with me. And this is where this is where we are. And this is where I will be talking more about Dharma if time pertains, but I'll keep moving forward. And then it's interesting that Charaka didn't just talk about the natural environment. Ayurveda texts and tradition, the Dharma teachings, which are somewhat neglected, but we're bringing them back. We have a lot of teachers who are talking about it. Let's bring them back. It also talks about the social environment, and look at this. In 2 BCE, likewise, adharma is also the cause of destruction of the community by weapons. These communities and their leaders who have excessively increased greed, anger, attachment, and conceit, disregarding the weak, either attack each other or their enemies or are attacked by their enemies, resulting in loss of themselves, their kinsmen, and enemies. If we are talking about weapons of mass destruction, then it looks like when the Mahabharata occurred and Lord Krishna had to ultimately explain why all of this occurred and why he's there, he had to say, Paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya cha dushkatam, right? I have to protect those who uphold dharma, and I have to do vinash of those or destroy those who are following adharma. Dharma samsthapanarthaye sambhavami yuge yuge. Again and again, I, the divine allness, shall come in some form or the other and help protect dharma. Because apparently there was all this going on, and this is so relevant today. And today, if we were not holding, after what happened at Las Vegas and everything, if you're not just even holding our guns, and what about the weapons of our ideas? What about the weapons of social media? What about the weapons of other ways that we are hurting each other? So this also affects us, and that speaks to you, Dr. Jay Kumar, about how social isolation or social disregard or social hurt or violence, rather, can really disturb immunity and the health issues. So I come back to this image of a child. I feel like Ayurveda somewhere is asking us to come back to our innocence, come back to our state of oneness and an experience of our unity consciousness. And this is like some quotes. These are actual teachings in the Charaka tradition, and I won't speak on each one of them to wrap up. But the point is, these are some of the Dharma values that we are being told to embody. One should behave like kith and kin to all livings beings. Sarva bhuta hita, says the Charaka Samhita. And then yajna was brought up by, I think, Dr. Ram Kumar. And yajna is a wonderful law. It's like the law of karma. There's a law of yajna. And in this law of yajna, we are given a simple explanation. When we were growing up in my Gurukul, I was learning about it. I learned that just like the sun, it receives the river's water, it receives it. That's how it becomes the ocean. The ocean receives millions of rivulets and rivers, becomes the ocean. Then the ocean does not hold back. It lets the sun vaporize itself. Then the vapors become the clouds. The clouds travel and give shade, etc. And then they become rainfall. Then they become the river again. And then it comes back to us. So there is a law of giving and receiving. If you want to receive, give. And give because you shall receive. The divine allness is looking after it. And so the Brahma Yajna, what the doshis have done, have enabled Brahma Yajna. What we do when we take care of educational conferences, institutions, texts, and traditions is Brahma Yajna. Pitra Yajna is, of course, we all look after our ancestors. But what about the ancestors who hold our knowledge? I met a socio-anthropologist who is working to support. There is one tradition in Victoria, BC, where all the elders of that medicine are in their 90s. So she got a grant in her university to apprentice those elders with young students from the university so that the knowledge would not die out with the 90-something. So Pitra Yajna, we can go even beyond our own personal grandpas and grandmothers to look at our humanity's ancestors. Manusha Yajna, look after other human beings. Bhuta Yajna. Bhuta Yajna is taking care of plants, animals, who cannot look after themselves, and also our ecology, our mountains, our rivers, who have no voice, but we can become their voice. And Deva Yajna is not just Indra and Ganesha, but these are forces like Vayu and Marut and Agni. These are the forces we are talking about. And this is yajna. Why? Because we are told that when you take this human birth, every day you're benefiting from all these people. You don't even know it. You're sitting there in your entitlement. Your cravings have become your obsessions. Obsessions have become entitlements. And you're sitting there saying, nobody looks after me. But the fact of the matter is, all of this is operating. You are in rina or debts and give back to them. This is Dharma 101. 5 designer relationships. And finally, when one thinks of oneself as one with the universe, the disease of separation is over. This is the deepest disease, the disease of feeling that we are separate. And then such a person, they have unity consciousness that comes up in them. And we embrace our true power. I had begun with power, but it's not the power of zero. It's a power of infinity that we want to bring forward. And when this illusion of separation ends, we are able to then really become the custodians of the universe in which we live in. And my concluding thought, studying the Vedas, Upanishads, teaching them, I don't come across the word romance much. And I wondered, especially when I was growing up. But now I understand the word for romance means shanti. I don't know if some of you are married. I'm happily married. And my ultimate love for my partner, my husband, my son, my dogs, my neighbors, my in-laws, everybody has been an offering of peace. When I curated peace within me, when I became peaceful, I emanated that peace, I gifted that peace, then I don't know what you can call it, romance, thrill, lust, love, everything, I have it all. And so therefore, with this mantra, which they will take time to chant, this is the ethos that we were wishing peace everywhere. Let us, probably then the ultimate dharma is cultivating peace towards our environment and not just becoming the consumer, but the benefactor of it. This is my book. And if you want to read more of my dharma-based teachings on lifestyle, and a medicine that asks us to take responsibility, to not just prescribe herbs, to grow herbs. There was a man who came from Jaipur to see my grandfather who had serious condition. My grandfather met him, blessed him, and told him which herb called aparajita he has to grow, move to a farm, grow it for 1 year, bring the herb back to him. The man is writing all the notes, yes. And then he says, now you go. So he says, sir, you didn't give me my dosage. He said, oh yeah, your dosage? You don't eat any of this. Many years later, the man got cured after 1 year. He came with marigold flowers and mithai and rasgullas and was very happy. Oh, Babaji, you saved me. But Babaji had saved him from his own selfishness. All his life, he had sat there, earned money, wearing jewels. And he had, of course, developed all the health problems that he had. So by going into the farm, he was doing yoga every day and growing from his selfishness. Thank you so much, Dr. Chappell.